The aircraft behind you, the PBJ, was built in 1944 and delivered in 1945, so it's already 72 years old. The name of the plane is the PBJ-1J, which is also the B-25 Mitchell, made by North American. They were developed around 1940 for use as the medium bomber role, and the aircraft behind us was one of almost 800 that were delivered to the Navy so that the Marine Corps could use it in combat in the Pacific. It's the last one of 8 that were not scrapped after World War II, so this is the last remaining PBJ known to exist. This aircraft was flown during World War II. It wasn't itself involved in combat, as it was just a training aircraft for the Marines on the East Coast for a couple of years. For us here at the Commemorative Air Force, again, the special moments come when we have veterans that have a link to this airplane or airplanes that we have here at the Commemorative Air Force. The main purpose of this Commemorative Air Force is to keep history alive. Through the airplanes, through the people that come here, we have a lot of veterans from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and also current conflicts that come through here. And we're able to keep that history alive by keeping these airplanes going, flying them, providing rides, and showing the next generation what the greatest generation did for us. Behind us, we also have a museum with a bunch of artifacts that were part of crew members' lives. You know, their uniforms, the items that they carried with them, the weapons, the cameras, just different artifacts that are in the back of the hangar. We have a variety of different aircraft, not only the PBJ, but we have trainers, we have fighters. We have a half a dozen fighters from the Yak-3 all the way to the Spitfire Mark 14. We also have a cargo aircraft called the C-46 Commando. My favorite part about the airplane is the camaraderie. Being together with a crew, we can take up to 11 people in the airplane, and typically we're running with a crew of 4, and being able to share it with others. The typical crew complement was 5 or 6 crewmen on the airplane, 2 pilots and 4 crew members, and that would vary based on the mission. After those 4 crew members consisted of the bombardier, the navigator, the radio men, and the tail gunner. Now you notice I didn't say that they're gunners. That was all their secondary mission, was to defend the airplane on top of their normal mission on the airplane.
A year ago last May, we did our first flight in 23 years. This whole restoration was a 23-year-long project. There were several doubters. I was one of them in the beginning. I wasn't sure this airplane was ever going to fly, but she does fly, and she is now the queen of this wing. We also sell rides in this airplane, and so we can share it with the community. It was a labor of love, and I and probably a dozen other folks worked on this over all those years. Unfortunately, due to the length of the process, there are 3 or 4 guys that worked on this airplane that are no longer with us, and they never had that wonderful opportunity to watch this airplane fly for the first time. This is still the best kept secret in Ventura County, unfortunately. This airplane and the museum that we have here tells some wonderful stories about aviation, also tells stories of sacrifice. Like they say, freedom is not free, and we have a lot of members here who are veterans, first responders. They're the people that hold the line and keep us all safe, and we can never forget that. So we honor veterans and first responders here, and carry that legacy on. When these engines fire up, there's smoke and flames, the ground shakes. It's an incredible experience, and it just has so much more meaning. There's a tremendous amount of passion here for the men and women that are involved in this. You have to be. It's very time-consuming, labor-intensive, expensive, and we all volunteer our time. A lot of us come out 3 days a week and keep this place rolling. We rent our hangars for weddings. We do whatever we can to keep this thing going and to educate. We all feel it's an extremely important thing that needs to be done. And aviation careers nowadays for kids, by the way, it's never been better, There's a shortage of pilots in this country. There's a shortage of mechanics. If a kid's thinking about a career in aviation or an adult, this is the time to get into it. It can be a great life and very rewarding in many ways.
We had a gentleman that came out to the wing shortly before we started flying the airplane, and he was a waist gunner radioman on these aircraft in World War II. And when he came out and looked at the airplane for the first time, and mind you, he's 90, at that time he was 91 years old, he's looking at the airplane and the emotions and the stories and what he thought about this airplane all came out. There wasn't a dry eye in the house at that point. And that's really what the importance of all these airplanes, not just this one, but of all of our airplanes. It's the stories, the human element involved.